Forward looking. Lay it off. Patrick. Ariel sets it in. Off of Dressel. Made it to Elliott. Julian Carlson. A spectacular finish. Philadelphia. Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And what an emotional game last night for the Philadelphia Union as they draw 2-2 against the Columbus Crew. You have an electric crowd for Military Appreciation Night. You have the return of Daniel Golazo, who gets a loud ovation by the fans. Well done to you guys. Wasn't sure if you guys would applaud Daniel or not. And then obviously you have the Union blowing the lead twice against Columbus Crew. Give up a late game-tying goal in the 93rd minute. And, it's a game that the Union very much so could have won last night. But I do believe if you would have asked Union fans before the start of this match if you'll take a point, I think fans would have signed up for that. But watching how this game went, Bradley Cornell's tactics, Bradley Cornell's substitution. I know when I was with Mike and Jose Nunez last night on Across the Pitch over at AAT Sports, a lot of people in the comment section were complaining about Bradley Cornell's tactics last night. I do think he approached this game really, really well, and they were a minute away from getting all 3 points against Columbus last night. So obviously we're going to go ahead and talk about the Columbus match, and no Jose Nunez tonight. And Jose and I maybe be back Thursday, I think, maybe for the match review of the LA Galaxy match, because don't forget, LA Galaxy come to town on Wednesday after getting battered by New York Red Bulls on Saturday 7-0. This is maybe the worst previous championship team that we've ever seen in MLS, yet to get a win. You give up 7 goals against the New York Red Bulls. The last goal that Galaxy conceded is an own goal, which should have never have happened. I mean, it completely looked like Galaxy gave up during that game. So, yeah, I mean, the Union, we know, had that game against Indy 11 on Wednesday, had to quickly recover after going 120 minutes, come out 2-2 against Columbus Crew, and now they go again on Wednesday against LA Galaxy. So, again, Jose Nunez and I should be back on Thursday to review that match, and I'm sure Mike Barrera and whoever else joins over at AAT Sports and does the post-game show over there. We have Michael chiming in saying, I'm still salty about that. Mike Barrera says, good evening, sir. What's up, Mike? Shaggy says, left points on the board. I blame Cornell's late sub decisions. We're definitely getting into that, Shaggy. And then Aaron says, I went to the game and you just had a feeling that it wouldn't end up in a draw. Both good teams. Yeah, exactly. First versus second in the Eastern Conference. This was a big game, a match for first place. And at the end of the night, neither team goes up in first place. FC Cincinnati jumps them both after beating Austin FC 2-1 in Cincinnati, with former Cincinnati player Brendan Vasquez scoring from the penalty spot. And yeah, neither one of these teams could break the deadlock. Union blew 2 leads. Like I said, Shaggy, we'll get into your point about the late subs, because again, people who may not have checked Across the Pitch last night, a lot of people in the comment section were complaining about those substitutions last night. So we'll be sure to talk about it on tonight's show. But the other topics for tonight we're going to get into is drop points, Andrew Rick's distribution. Andre Blake misses his second consecutive game. That Golazo by Frankie Westfield, his progression the last 10 months between Union 2, the USU 20s, and now the Philadelphia Union first team. But before we get into any of those topics, we do have 2 news topics, 2 news points that I want to talk about, because the Philadelphia Union do have a brand new player. This player did not feature last night for the Union, but we'll get to that in this segment. So with that said, let's get straight into the news. All right, so the first bit of news that I want to go ahead and talk about is, I don't know if you guys saw this during the week, Sportico's top 50 most valuable clubs. The Union ranked number 40 at $700 million. And I think a lot of fans, when they would see that, would question the Philadelphia Union really ranked $700 million, 40th ranked club in the world. I think a lot of fans would have questions about that. And I think we'll probably get comments coming in on the show tonight about, okay, well, if they're ranked that high, if they're worth $700 million, then why isn't Jay Sugarman spending more money? And we could be here all night talking about, okay, Jay Sugarman should spend more money because, you guys never let him forget that you just want him spending a little bit. But again, you look at teams like Atlanta, continue to wet the bed. Spending doesn't always result in results. And Atlanta is a good, clear example of that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up on the screen. And so hopefully you guys can see this. Looking at the top 5, you have Real Madrid at $6.5 billion, Manchester United, number 2 at $6 billion, FC Barcelona, number 3 at $5.7 billion, Liverpool, number 4 at $5.5 billion, and then Bayern Munich at $5.2 billion for your top 5. And what's interesting about this list too, out of the top 50, there's 19 MLS clubs on this list. You have right here LAFC coming in as the first MLS club, number 16 worldwide at $1.2 billion, followed by Inter Miami at 17 at $1.1 billion. And again, I mean, you see LA Galaxy on this list, Atlanta United on this list, New York City on the list, Austin FC on this list, who, by the way, Austin FC ranked higher than Aston Villa, $865 million for Austin FC, Aston Villa at $850 million in 24. Seattle Sounders are on this list as well. You also have Columbus Crew, Toronto FC, FC Cincinnati, DC United, Portland Timbers, Charlotte FC at $705 million. And then right there at 40th, you have Philadelphia Union at $700 million. The Union are ahead of Benfica in Portugal, who are at $675 million. St. Louis at $655 million. Minnesota United also at $655 million. Sporting Kansas City, $650 million. New York Red Bulls, $645 million. Nashville, $640 million. Frankfurt, who the Union have a friendly against in August, I believe it is. They're ranked number 47 at $640 million. Bournemouth, 630. Brentford, 615. And then Crystal Palace, 610. So, I mean, you have the Union higher than a Bundesliga club. You have them higher than 3 Premier League clubs. And then you have them higher than a Portuguese superhouse. And so, yeah, I mean, that was a little bit shocking, I think, for me to see that Philadelphia Union ranked so high on this list. And again, fans are going to see that and say, well, then why doesn't why doesn't Jay Sugarman spend more money if the Union are valued that high? And it is also worth noting that if you go down here and look at how Sportico calculates each team's rankings for this, they go off of teams' revenue, public available financial statements. For MLS teams, they use their previous valuations that were posted in January. They also look at the real estate and related businesses. And so the Union, I'm sure, are getting a lot on this list because of that new complex that they invested in, where you have just so many teams coming down here and playing games. You have the academy down here, obviously. And so that facility is definitely going to play a big factor into why the Union are ranked number 40 worldwide out of the top 50 clubs. But yeah, again, I mean, this is a pretty huge honor, I would say, for the Philadelphia Union to be one of 19 clubs from MLS represented on this top 50 list. And again, I can't really debate with you guys too much about, well, maybe the Union should spend a little bit more money if they're ranked this high. But the one thing I would say is a lot of fans say that the Union need to have Jay Sugarman sell. And I look at this list and I say, the Union keep going up in value every single year. Why would Jay Sugarman sell the Philadelphia Union? And he definitely wouldn't sell before the World Cup, maybe after the World Cup. But again, if MLS is going to continue to add teams, those values of these franchises, these clubs, are going to continue to go up. And so I think for Union fans, the most realistic that they could be is get more investors into the club. Investors not like Kevin Durant, right? Yeah, you bring him in, he's a big name, but you need serious investors that have serious cash that are going to go out here and give you $10 million plus to bring in a superstar, which, even then, I don't know the Philadelphia Union would really do that. We see the Union bring in Bruno Damiani for what, $3.4 million this past January. So they did break their highest transfer fee this past January, and we'll see if the Union continue to go that way. But hey, look, this is a pretty big feat for the Philadelphia Union. And the second bit of news that I do want to get to is Philadelphia Union. They signed former Charlotte FC midfielder Ben Bender through 2025. And this is a player that's near and dear to my heart just because he's a Maryland guy. He went to Calvert Hall, which is a private school in Towson, right outside of Baltimore City, and went to the University of Maryland, where he was an absolutely stud. Spent 2 seasons at Maryland, scoring 9 goals, provided 5 assists in 29 games. In 2021, he was a first-team All-American and in unanimous Big Ten Midfielder of the Year. He went number 1 in the 2022 Super Draft by Charlotte FC. And during his career with Charlotte, he played in 61 games, 36 starts across all competitions for Charlotte, scored 8 goals, provided 8 assists in 322 minutes. And I love this signing. I think when people were asking me my thoughts, yeah, a little bit biased because he's a Maryland guy, and it's always a pleasure to see a fellow Maryland native represented on the Philadelphia Union. So now he joins Andrew Rick as the 2 guys that were born in Maryland, with Andrew Rick being from Bethesda, which is right outside DC. But I do hope that Ben Bender gets opportunities with the Union. I think he will get opportunities for the Philadelphia Union. The one player that I think he's very similar to is Brendan Aronson. I call him Brendan Aronson 2.0. I don't think he's going to give you the creativity that Brendan gave you during his time with the Union. But the one thing that you're going to get out of Ben is pressing. And that's exactly what you got out of Brendan Aronson. I think Ben's a little bit skinnier than what you would like. And again, that's why he reminds me of Brendan Aronson. You guys remember during his time with the Union, he would get bodied off the ball just way too easily. But Ben's going to press. He's going to press. And we know how valuable that is in a Bradley Cornell system. So he's going to fit in well in Bradley Cornell's system. And so when the Union announced this signing last week, Bradley Cornell was asked during his press conference just his overall thoughts on Bender. And this is what Cornell had to say.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I think as we go through these summer months now, and I think we need a lot of bodies in and around our training environment. We need a lot of bodies in and around game day environments. And he's come in and he has a certain skill set. And we think he has something to offer that maybe could be lacking in our roster. So, we just have to get him up to a certain level or baseline level of fitness and go from there. But he's shown a good he's clean around the goal. He can finish off plays, has a good goal scoring record, and is highly talented, coming out, super draft pick and number 1 in the league. And yeah, I think he shows a lot of value when he is needed and when he's contributed for Charlotte. So, we're happy to have him with us, and we just need to get him up to speed early, especially with our style of play.
Yeah, and you heard Bradley Cornell say it right there that, with the amount of games in the summertime, getting another body into training sessions and being around the match day squad, Bren Bender is not being brought in here to be expected to be a starter. I saw some people saying on social media, well, is this to be the expected cover for a potential Quinn Sullivan sale? I don't believe so. I don't think they're similar players, but I do believe that Ben Bender is another player that's going to add depth to this team. When you want to close out games or when you have multiple games during the week, you may give him a spot start. And so, again, I think he's going to fit in very well in the system with Bradley Cornell, with his pressing. I know that there was concerns about his knee because he missed games towards the end of 2023 because he tore his meniscus, and he didn't come back until May 15th, 2024. And the game that he hurt his meniscus in, that was against the Philadelphia Union. So he injured himself on September 20th, 2023, underwent surgery on October 24th, 2023, and then didn't play again until May 15th, 2024 with Crown Legacy. And then on September 6th, 2024, Ben was loaned to USL championship side Tampa Bay Rowdies for the remainder of the season, where he appeared in 9 games, 6 starts, provided 1 assist in 477 minutes. So, yeah, again, I don't think anybody's expecting Ben to come in here and be a starter, and I don't think Ben's going to be the player replacing Quinn Sullivan if he is moved during the summertime. Again, this is just depth, and I think that he's going to go ahead and be a fine player for this team. And as Michael says right here on the comments, he says, Maryland soccer guy, loves outdoors and fishing. Todd has a new favorite player. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to get a one-on-one interview with Ben Bender because a lot in common. And if you guys were listening to the podcast a couple years ago, I had former homegrown player Cole Turner, who's also a Maryland native from Churchville, Maryland, which is about 20 minutes away from where I live. And so, yeah, we talked a lot about fishing on the podcast, and yeah, it was cool just talking to him about growing up in Maryland, playing with local clubs, and then finally going up to the Union's academy system and signing a homegrown deal. Was supposed to sign with Navy, go into the Naval Academy, but then at the last minute, kind of like Frankie Westfield, when he was supposed to go to Penn State, he got offered a deal with Union 2, and Cole got offered a deal with the first team. So, yeah, hoping maybe at one point to get Ben on the podcast and talk, just growing up in Maryland, playing soccer, obviously fishing, talking about his outstanding career at University of Maryland, what went right, what went wrong down in Charlotte. And Charlotte had to waive him because they had got Marshall Rudy from Montreal on loan. They needed defensive cover. They needed to open a roster spot on the roster. And so Ben Bender was the odd guy out. And so, yeah, his loss is hopefully the Union's game. And don't forget, too, that he used to be in the Union's Academy back in the 2015, 2016 season. But then he left the academy just because it was too far of a drive for his family to keep going up there. And so he came back down to Maryland and played for local club side Baltimore Armor. And then eventually that led to playing for some local non-league clubs, and then went on to play at the University of Maryland. So happy to have Ben Bender with the squad, and yeah, hope to get a chance to interview him and talk about all these topics I just mentioned. Michael says, no, to quote Jose, a Timu, Brendan Aronson. Shaggy says, definitely much needed depth. Michael also says, I like the signing. A lot of fans are just confused because they expect a new center back over another midfielder. And then Shaggy says, sad Union left points on the field last night, but happy to see Miami lose 4-1. Yeah, and that's interesting too, right, Shaggy? Because Julian Gressel, who was with Miami a few weeks ago, gets traded to Minnesota, and now he gets his revenge. Didn't play a single minute this season under Javier Mascherano, the Inter Miami coach, and Miami come to Minnesota and they lose 4-1. So, yeah, I'm sure Julian Gressel felt good seeing that his new club sticking it to his former club. And whenever we get to see Miami lose, it's always good for the league. And I can't wait for this Messi experiment to be over. So, yeah, that is pretty much everything on the news. And let's get straight into the Philadelphia Union versus Columbus Crew match. Again, we all know that game ended 2-2. Union dropped first points of the season. You guys have already talked about it a couple times here on the show. And I guess we'll start with your comment, Shaggy. You said at the beginning of the show, left points on the board. I blame Cornell's late substitution decisions. And yeah, I mean, again, a lot of people had the same argument on across the pitch with Mike Barrera and Jose Nunez and myself last night. And you look at the substitutions. You had Tai Baribo and Bruno Damiani coming out in the 69th minute. Cornell then goes and brings in Makanya and Mikau Ua. You switch to a back 3, back 5, whatever you want to call it. You're playing 3 center backs, 2 outside backs. And then he makes 2 more substitutions in the 79th minute, taking off Quinn Sullivan and Danley John Jock to bring on Jesus Bueno and then Chris Donovan. And then in the 89th minute, you bring in Jeremy Raffanello for Jovan Lukic. And so you lose your 2 holding midfielders, 2 huge players, and they've been stars for the Union this season. And you mess with your shape a little bit. And I said before the game that I think the Union should have went with a back 3. In talking with some people, they were like, yeah, I don't know if the Union really had the depth with the center backs being out, because that's why a lot of fans are saying the Union should have went out and got a center back. And I'm like, well, you look at the wingbacks that Columbus plays with. You want to switch to a back three. Columbus plays a back three. You want to match what they're doing. And Cornell goes out with his 4-2-2-2 formation. And the Union, for majority of this game, they did well against Columbus. They really did do well. And again, maybe this is part of the reason why Jim Curtin last season didn't always sub in players, didn't mess with the defensive line, because maybe that cost the Union something when defending in the set piece in the last kick of the game in the 93rd minute. And you got to make sure everybody's on. It's really, really disappointing to see Nathan Harriel lose out at the near post to Diego Rossi. He gets a flick one to Zawadzki. Zawadzki outmuscles Kai Wagner at the back post, and now the game's tied 2-2. And it was really, really, really poor defending by the Union on that play. And I think what else is pretty disappointing is that it's a set piece goal that the Union give up. The Union don't concede a lot of set piece goals. They're second in MLS this season in terms of scoring on set pieces with 6 set piece goals. And they're tied for, I think, the third fewest now goals conceded off of set pieces, tied with a whole bunch of clubs, now with 3. And if you look last season against Columbus, in Columbus, 2 out of the 3 goals that the Crew scored were set piece goals. The Union struggled to defend those corner kicks once again last season. And of course, it would be the last kick of the game that the Union struggle to clear out the ball. They lose 2 headers on that play. There's no reason why Nathan Harriel should have lost at the near post to Diego Rossi. It's a good flick one by Rossi, to be fair. But then Kai Wagner's got to be stronger there on the back post on Zawadzki. You can't let him outmuscle you on that play. And so it's a really, really poor goal that the Union conceded there late on. And I would argue, too, the first goal that the Union conceded, a really poor goal to concede, where it's a little bit of a overlap on the right-hand side of the field for Columbus. And so the Union are pushing numbers over on that way. And when the ball gets crossed in by Chambos, I believe it was, you have Max Arfston completely unmarked on the back post. You have Frankie Westfield marking Daniel Gazag on that play. He has to cut in because Jacob Glesnes is rotated closer on the right side of the field. You probably should have had either Indiana Vasilev probably should have been the player tracking back and marking Arfston. He doesn't, and it's a free goal on the back, and it's 2 goals that could have been conceded. I mean, that could have been picked out by the Union. The Union didn't need to be conceding those goals. And again, it's why I go back to, I think Bradley Cornell's tactics were spot on in this game, where you look in the first half, 7 shots Columbus had, only 1 on target. The Union had 2 blocks in the first half, 1 by Nathan Harriel, 1 by Jacob Glesnes. In the second half, it's even less shots by Columbus, 3. But now the only difference is 2 of those shots were on target, and 2 of those shots resulted in goals. And so you give up less chances to Columbus in the second half, but yet they capitalize on 2 huge opportunities, 2 plays that the Union could have cut out. That you defend better if you communicate a little bit better. Maybe Columbus doesn't score them, but Columbus, in my opinion, one of the best teams in MLS. They show it last night. Good teams know how to get results. And unfortunately, the Union, what should have been a 2-1 win, could have even been a 3-1 win. And we'll talk about that here in a bit, because a lot of fans I saw were very, very disappointed on social media with Mikal Ua once again. But again, I'll argue and I'll say, if I would have told you guys before this game, the Union will get a point against Columbus, majority of this fan base would have signed up for that. But then you watch how this game goes. Union a minute away from winning this game. It's really, really disappointing. Really, really disappointing. And it's definitely 2 points dropped. It feels like it's a punch in the gut. And this is what Bradley Cornell had to say last night in regards to the Union dropping the first points of the season and the display, the effort that his team showed throughout the match.
Pound for pound, we held our own. Very proud of the boys that we go ahead and unfortunately can't bring it over the line is gut-wrenching, disappointing. on the one side, I'm so happy for the boys that they stuck to the game plan, and I appreciate their effort. And we had many chances to actually maybe get the third or the fourth. So credit to them for coming back. And it just was a great advert for the league, I think. And it feels like we lost 2 points here tonight.
The comment right here says, really stinks that we had a that's a Union moment last night, but since this team is slightly compared to 2022 and 2022 around this time, the Union was in a 5-game draw streak. And yeah, the Union, 7 games on the season that they have wins on a 5-game unbeaten run. No, 4. It's 4-game unbeaten run, right? 5 in all competitions, 4 in MLS, because coming into the game, they had 3 wins in MLS and then the draw. Yeah, it's 4 games unbeaten in MLS, 5 in all competitions. And it's disappointing where the Union almost come away with all 3 points, a battle between first and second. And this is a game where, if you guys remember the last couple of episodes, we're arguing, okay, it's great that the Union are getting points against teams that they should get points against. Atlanta United, DC United, Montreal. It's good that the Union got points against those teams. But now if the Union want to be serious, if they want to prove that they are a legit team, let's see how they come out against Columbus. And they were so close last night. And yes, it hurts. It hurts a lot seeing that this team dropped 2 points. They could have came away with all 3 points, but I think they battled well against Columbus. And now let's see what this team does on Wednesday. This is your typical trap game. A LA Galaxy team coming into Subaru Park without a win this season just got battered by New York Red Bull 7-0. LA Galaxy have a lot to play for. They have their pride to play for to show that, hey, look, we're not going to have another result like that. I guarantee you those players are going to be fired up. They're going to come out on a pretty quick start. There's too much talent in that roster for them to have another performance like they had against the New York Red Bulls. But yeah, Union got to get 3 points this Wednesday against LA Galaxy. And then you go down to Atlanta on Saturday, which I would argue is probably a game that you need 3 points. A team that is struggling mightily. And I know it's really, really difficult to get results down at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But again, you got to beat these teams that you're supposed to beat. LA Galaxy is that team. Atlanta United's that team. And yeah, I mean, if the Union keeps stacking up these points, keep getting wins, keep beating the teams they're supposed to beat, this is going to be a top 4 team. I'm not ready to say this is a great team yet, but I do think this is a very good Philadelphia Union team. And if they keep getting these results, yes, they will finish top 4, no problem, in my opinion. And that's what you want. You want to have as many home playoff games as possible. And it's crazy that we're sitting here on May 11th talking about playoffs, but who would have thought that we're 12 games into the season already? These things happen so quickly. And so to see the Union be in a spot where they sit in 3rd place, they have 7 wins on the season, 3 losses, 2 draws, 22 points, only 2 points off of 1st place, which is FC Cincinnati. Yeah, the Union are right in the mix of things. And last night would have been a really, really good result for this team. I do think at the end of the day, a 2-2 draw, it's better than a loss. So disappointing how things went and disappointing to see them drop points. But for it being the first time this season that the Union have done that, it's not the worst thing in the world. Comment here from Paul says, our defense is so bad. Yeah, I mean, I think Jacob Glazis, Nathan Harriel, I thought they had really excellent games on the night. There was a couple moments in this game where Frankie Westfield got cooked, but when he did, you had Glazis, you had Harriel winning tackles, that you had them heading away danger. And so, when somebody would get beat, you had players stepping up, and I thought the Union played pretty solid on the evening. And to that point, too, coming into this game, the Union had actually conceded the 3rd fewest goals in MLS with 10. This is a night and day difference team compared to last year defensively. And yes, I know Andre Blake missed a lot of games last year. That plays a big factor into things. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, you're seeing guys get beat at times, but then they recover, or other players recover. And it just seems like players are just constantly picking each other up. And that's something that you didn't really see last year. And so I do think this team's a little bit better defensively than they were last year. And it is unfortunate that they concede that goal on defense, on set pieces, which they've been so good at defending this season. Shaggy says, and does Kai score that goal that Ura missed that would have made it 3-1? Yeah, I don't know. We've seen Tai miss some chances like that too, but yeah, he is in good form. 8 goals on the season, which is tied for Hugo Kuipers of Chicago Fire for the most in the league. Uh, Jack says did some questionable things with the ball at the end. I think he means Jesus Bueno. That's the comment that he said before that. Another comment says it was definitely a battle of 1v2s. Jack says Donovan's pass to Uo wasn't great, but to be honest, but gotta at least hit the target. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that because if Uo puts that chance away in the 91st minute, it was definitely in stoppage time. You guys can let me know. I'm sure you guys have a better memory than me. You have a fantastic through ball by Jesus Bueno into Chris Donovan. I was a little bit surprised that Donovan didn't try to shoot this. He squares the pass to Mikael Uhre, which is the right play. But then Uhre doesn't even put that on frame. Doesn't even put it on target. And you got to find the back of the net. You got to at least test the goalkeeper. And Mikael Uhre doesn't do that at all. And if that finds the back of the net, we're having a completely different conversation. So what if Columbus scores that late header on Andrew Rick in the 93rd minute? Because the score is 3-2. But Mikael Uhre doesn't bury the chance. And unfortunately for him, unfortunately for the Union, good teams find ways to get back into the game. And that's exactly what Columbus Crew did. And you go back to last week's game against Montreal. You had Mikael Uhre finishing that chance off in the 84th minute. Wins the game for the Union 2-1 against a very, very difficult Montreal team. You see them last night get the win against New York City 1-0. And maybe results start coming for Montreal. And again, nobody's going to remember how that game went against Montreal. But what if Montreal starts picking up points? And then you look at that result and you say, wow, this is a really good result against Montreal. Nobody's going to remember how it happened, but you see 3 points away in Montreal. That could be a huge 3 points. Or at the same time, too, last night's 2-2 draw, maybe two big points for the Union. So, again, disappointing that Mikael Uhre didn't finish that playoff. Great feed by Bueno. Great pass by Chris Donovan. I know I saw one of the comments say that Jack said it wasn't the greatest pass by Donovan into Uhre, but yeah, it's still a shot that Mikael Uhre needs to put on target. Domesticated Hoagie says, pregame, I would have been happy with a draw. Postgame and draw was disappointing. Jillian says, it felt like a draw, air quotes, loss. Michael says, I would have been pretty happy with the tie, just not the last minute and added time. Hoagie says, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Jillian says, as soon as the fans started doing the go back to Ohio chant, I was like, no, going to jinx it. I said the same thing, Jillian, to Kyle and Jose in the press box. I was like, why? Why are you guys doing this chant? It's going to come back and haunt you. They did the same thing a few years ago against FC Cincinnati, and then Brandon Vasquez scores. And did Bupenza also score in that game? Maybe. And the game wind up being tied 2-2. And it's like, you guys start these chants just way too early. It's like, if you want to do that chant, do it after the game. Don't do it when Columbus is pushing. And I'm sure that was music to their ears. You know, that's the motivation they needed to go ahead and get back into this game and tie the game up and really stick it to the Union. T-Mac says, where did you find the post-game press conference? It wasn't posted, so I didn't know if there was some back and forth with media. Yeah, T-Mac, the Union send out the press conference to us, so I have the Google Drive to that. I believe it was also on Facebook. I don't know why they didn't put it on YouTube, but yeah, I got that sent by the Union. Mark Anthony says, I have to expect a win out of them every week at this point and can't settle with draws. If they want to tease us with first place, at least take us on that first date. It's a good comment there by Mark. Jack says, definitely tough, but overall we played well, minus a 15-minute stretch of the first half. And then Jack also chimes in and says, team we play next just lost 7-0, so all good momentum is gone if we don't play well versus LA. Absolutely. Shaggy says, last night could have been a huge statement game. Yeah, could have. First versus second. And two very good teams, two teams that are going to be in the playoffs. And it shouldn't surprise me that Columbus Crew are this good without Cucho Hernandez when Wilfred Nancy is the best coach in MLS. And no matter who he has on his roster, he just gets the most out of them. But yet I was so surprised to see Columbus play as well as they've been playing this season with no Cucho Hernandez. But I shouldn't be when you have Wilfred Nancy coaching that club. A lot of great comments, guys. I'm appreciating this. Jillian says they did it at half against Cincy. The go back to a higher chant. Yeah, so dumb. She says, I don't want to hear it until after the final whistle. And Michael's saying Frankie's goal nearly tore the netting off the goalpost. Yeah, we'll talk about Frankie's goal here in a minute. But yeah, not any more I can add, I guess, about the points dropped. It is what it is. Again, that was the Union's first drop points this season. Coming into this game, only Charlotte and the Union were the only two teams remaining in MLS that hadn't dropped points this season. Part of that is because the Union don't concede a lot of equalizing goals. Because before the game, the Union had only conceded one equalizer. That was last week against Montreal. The goal with Veroni in stoppage time in the first half that made it 1-1. So, I mean, the Union are a team that don't drop a lot of leads. They're a team that doesn't concede equalizers. And they're a team that, usually scores the first goal. And when that happens, that's a recipe for success. And so, yeah, to see the Union finally drop the points, it was going to happen, but in the fashion that they dropped it, really, really disappointing. But one thing that I don't think is a disappointing is Andrew Rick's distribution. He's the youngest goalie to ever record an assist. And yeah, I guess it technically is an assist, but I don't like counting secondary assists. I really don't like counting secondary assists. Yes, it is a legitimate assist. It was the assist to the assister, which was to Quinn Sullivan. But again, come on. Like, are we really wasting our time tracking these stats? And yes, in a lot of my articles, the stats that I bring up to you guys, I never count the secondary assists, but it is worth mentioning last night, that assist, because it was such a big pass there by Andrew Rick. So you can see it here on the screen, hopefully. Andrew Rick with the assist on Tai Baribo's opening goal last night. The Philadelphia Union's Andrew Rick became the youngest goalkeeper in MLS history to record an assist at the age of 19 years old and 100 days old. So, yeah, I mean, shout out to Andrew Rick for a phenomenal pass to Quinn Sullivan. And yeah, I mean, I think that's a little bit questionable. The goal that Tai Baribo scored, I think Quinn Sullivan potentially could have been offside, but I do think that if there was something in that, then they would have sent the referee to the monitor. They never did. Yes, he was in his ear with the VAR officials, and I guess VAR obviously didn't think there was enough in it to send the referee to the monitor to have a look. But again, it's a fantastic pass by Andrew Rick into Quinn Sullivan. But this isn't the first time that we've seen this from Andrew Rick. If you watch Union 2, this is typical Andrew Rick with a ball at his foot. He can ping and pass just as well as any of the field players. Andrew Rick joked with us last year, I think it was, that, yeah, I mean, he has such good distribution because he came up playing as a defensive midfielder, which, yeah, you want your defensive midfielders good with the ball at their feet. And yeah, Andrew slipped a couple times playing passes. He also had a pass to Quinn Sullivan in the first half where Quinn was actually ruled for offside. Then Andrew had a pass in the second half. Yeah, this guy's just so good with the ball at his feet. And no offense to Andre Blake. If Andre Blake's in there, Andre's not hitting those passes that Andrew Rick can play. And I think that's the one big key element that separates Andrew Rick and Blake. Blake's a great shot stopper. Andrew Rick's going to continue to become a great shot stopper. But with how soccer is going now today, where every team seems to want goalkeepers that are good with the ball at their feet, Andrew Rick fits that mold. And Andrew Rick, we saw actually score a penalty kick against Chattanooga. And that would have been something to see Andrew Rick win an MLS Next Pro, then win in the USL Championship, and then win in MLS. He was so close. I think he would have been the first player in all three competitions to win all three competitions during 1 week. Would have been another insane stat for Andrew Rick. And yes, we'll talk about Andre Blake missing this game, but I do want to just point out the passing by Andrew Rick. 9 out of 19 accurate long balls. Again, great ball into Quinn Sullivan. And going back, if you guys rewatch this game, it was between Nathan Harriel and Jacob Gledson who's going to take this. You see Nathan Harriel point back to Andrew Rick, say, "Now you take it." I know the Apple cameras didn't pick this up. Phil Wetton, the goalkeeper coach, was telling Bradley Cornell, "Yeah, let's let Andrew Rick take this." And as soon as this goal gets scored, the first person that Bradley Cornell runs to is Phil Whedon. And that's a credit to the job that Phil Whedon does. Jose Nunez and I talked about this last episode. The job that Phil Whedon does with the goalkeepers, the job that Ross Kane does with the goalkeepers down in Union 2 with the first team. The Union are very, very fortunate to have 2 world-class goalkeeping coaches. And their players are starting to benefit off of their good coaching. And again, if Andre Blake's in the game last night, I don't think Andre's playing that pass up to Quinn Sullivan. I don't think he's as good at distributing the ball as Andrew Rick. I mean, look, we don't even see Andre Blake take some goal kicks. You see Jacob Glesnes take goal kicks that time. We saw Jack Elliott take goal kicks last season. And so when you have a goalkeeper that's 19 years old, that's young, has fresh legs, you feel comfortable. But then he's so accurate with his passes, then you feel even more comfortable. John says right here, he says, MLS assist is so weird. Michael says, as Shaggy Zoom cam showed his face, he was pretty emotional, talking about Daniel Gazdag, I assume. John says, Orfston might be my favorite non-union player, such a good player. Yeah, pretty good left back, versatile player. Shaggy says, I hope this isn't a game where we look back at those 2 points. Yeah, a lot of comments that are talking about those. Mark Kelkenberg, great to see you last night at the game, Mark, coming up from Charlotte. Shout out Mark and Tyler Trimble. Great seeing you guys at the games last night. But Mark says, big swinging Rick. Yeah, really, really good in the back from Andrew Rick, and comes up with a big save on AZ Jackson in the 10th minute. Jacob Glesnes can't catch up to Jackson. He's basically 1v1 against Andrew Rick, and Andrew Rick comes up with a really, really big save. And the momentum could have completely changed if Columbus goes up 1-0 early on in this game. But Andrew Rick channeling some of his Andre Blake, coming up with big saves and big moments. And just a really, really good showing by Andrew Rick last night in goal for the Union. And I guess that kind of brings us into the next topic, which is, Andre Blake missing his second consecutive game. Should fans be worried? And I feel like we've talked about this the last couple of episodes. We've talked about, should the Union go out and get another goalkeeper? And it's definitely concerning. It's definitely concerning seeing Andre Blake miss now his second consecutive game. He's missed 3 games this season due to injury. He's missed over 50% of the Union's games last season. You missed 3 games already, 4 overall because he missed 1 because of international duty. A comment earlier in the show from Shaggy said, time for the Union to move past Blake. Dude is never healthy anymore, and add to his international call-ups, it's like he never plays anymore. And I think the more and more games that Andre Blake continues to miss, I think fans are going to start saying the same thing. I mean, Andre Blake's going to go down as a top 5 best goalkeeper ever to play in MLS, but the best availability is availability. And if Andre Blake can't be healthy, you seriously need to consider getting another goalkeeper. And even if Andre Blake was healthy, I think the Union do need another goalkeeper, so you can send Andrew Rick out to USL, continue playing. He's past playing in MLS Next Pro. He needs to go at a higher level. And so we'll see if the Union address goalkeeping come the summertime. But T-Mac asked earlier, he wanted to see some interactions between the media and Bradley Cornell, and we did. We did get a moment last night between Jose Nunez and Bradley Cornell. Jose asked about Andre Blake's health, and this was that whole exchange between Jose and Bradley Cornell.
Any updates on Andre? Obviously, you mentioned you guys were monitoring an injury and sort of managing it.
No, Jose, let's talk about the game. I'm not sure what's happening.
Sure. So let me ask you about Andrew Rick. How does he help you advance the ball, or how does he help you manage this game in terms of what he can do going from the back to the forward so quickly?
Yeah, I thought we controlled our build-up very well tonight, and the game plan would have been the same with Dre in the field as well. So, we look very comfortable. We found spaces through, Frankie and Kai and Jacob progressing the ball. So, credit to them. And I thought it looked good at times. A good hold-up play from Bruno as well, just to get the bounce pass off. So, I thought we could show another side of us tonight as well. And I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, there's a couple things there that I disagree with Cornell. Like Jillian said right here, it's a fair question by Jose, 100%. Jose's asking a question that has to do with the game. Bradley Cornell says, yeah, I want to talk about the game. Well, Andre Blake is a part of the game. It's a huge question because you have 2 games now. Bradley Cornell had said after the Indy 11 game that, yeah, they're just managing an injury from Andre Blake. He didn't seem to be too concerned. He said he was hopeful that Andre Blake could play against Columbus, and now he misses the Columbus game. And so, yeah, that has everything to do with the game. You're starting goalkeeper, once again, missing another game. And so it's a fair question by Jose. And then Cornell comes out here and says, yeah, not much would have changed if Andre's in goal in terms of distribution, how we wanted to play. I think it does, actually. Like I had been talking about, Bradley Cornell's not as good at distributing the ball like Andrew Rick is. And so maybe that goal into Tai Baribo doesn't happen. Andre Blake's not playing that pass. Maybe Nathan Harry or Jacob Glesnes doesn't hit that perfect pass into Quinn Sullivan. And so I do think a lot changes with Andrew Rick. Jose had said to me during this game, right before this goal, actually, he said, because of how well Andrew Rick's pinging these balls, the Union should push their attackers up higher. Push Damiani up higher to win those 50-50 balls. Let Andrew Rick just play long balls over the top into Damiani because he's going to win those 50-50 balls. And then a few minutes later, Andrew Rick gets his secondary assist. But yeah, there's no way that the Union played the same way with Andre Blake in the goal last night. He's not hitting that pass. He is not hitting that pass. And so you even saw, if you guys are watching this live, Cornell's facial expression, you could just tell he was so annoyed with that question. He's like, nah, let's just focus on the game. That's a fair question, a fair play to Jose. Okay, having a second question to fall back on, because that has everything to do with this game. You said you weren't too concerned. You're just managing something. And what? You know Andre Blake's going to get asked about on Tuesday's press conference. And is he going to be questionable again? And what if somebody else asks if Andre Blake doesn't play on Wednesday about an update on Blake? It's a serious question. It's a serious concern. And Blake signed that contract extension until 2026 with an option for 2027. And I do wonder, are some people regretting that? Just seeing him not stay healthy. And I had threw this out there a couple weeks ago saying, I wonder if this is all mental for Andre Blake because he's missed so much games. And yeah, I do believe that he is injured, but I do wonder if he's afraid of making the injury worse. And so he's in his head and he's saying, yeah, I can't go. I do wonder if that's what's going on with Andre Blake. But again, you seriously got to consider a new goalkeeper. Andre Blake's a legend, but if you can't rely on him, if he can't stay healthy, then you've got to have a serious conversation about potentially moving on from Andre Blake. It's that simple. It's hard to say that about a legend, but look, the Union have moved on from a lot of players in the past. Daniel Gazdag being the most recent. They moved on from Julian Kranzler in the summertime last year. It's a huge player for the Union. Jose Martinez, another huge player for the Union. Jack Elliott, Leon Flock. There comes a time to move on from guys. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens with Andre Blake this Wednesday. We'll see if we get a honest update on Tuesday about Andre Blake's health. And we'll see if he plays on Wednesday night. Coming here from Jarrett says, time to give Rick the same confidence we gave Westfield. I assume you mean giving him consistent game time, playing time. Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question. It's a fair question there, Jarrett, and it's a fair statement. Maybe Andrew Rick should get consistent playing time with the first team now if Andre Blake just can't stay healthy. But at the same time, you had mentioned Frankie Westfield, so I do think that this is a good way to wrap up this show. And it is Frankie Westfield's Golazo for his first career goal. And I do want to talk about his development, his last 10 months he's had. So for people who didn't pay attention to Union 2 last year, I know Jillian doing a fantastic job covering Union 2. Her and her husband, Kyle Omni, pretty much the only two people that are covering Union 2 at a consistent basis. And so if you guys want to hear Union 2 talk, definitely check out the podcast, The One Team We Agree On, or go ahead and check out their articles. They're so consistent. They give you guys so much information about what's going on with the second team, and especially when there's no replays for these games. So yeah, they do such a fantastic job with the second team, giving you guys outstanding coverage. And Frankie Westfield, it's where he made his name. 10 months ago, he was moments away from going off to college, playing for Penn State, which he committed to in 2023 in December, I believe it was. And then right before he was supposed to go off to Penn State, he got offered a Union 2 contract on July 5th, signs the deal, obviously, has an outstanding season with Union 2, plays so well that he gets included in MLS's next best 11, and he also earns his first call up to the US U20s training camp in Chile. And then, because of the outstanding season, gets invited to the preseason with the Union in Spain, down in Florida, plays well, starts games because of injuries to Olivier Bizo and Nathan Harriel. He then gets a homegrown contract on February 8th. Jose had announced that this deal was in the works for some time. I believe Jose announced that deal in December or January. I forget when Jose said it. But it becomes official on February 8th. Signs that homegrown deal through 2028 with an option for 2029. His very first start, his very first game for the Philadelphia Union, he earns an assist against Orlando City on opening day. Then a couple weeks ago, gets his second assist against DC United. Played in 11 games so far for the Union, 10 starts. Finally gets his first goal. And like you had mentioned, Michael, Frankie's goal nearly tore the netting off the goalpost. I mean, you couldn't have hit a better hit than what Frankie Westfield had struck last night. And he was asked after the game, who scored the better goal now this season, you or Jacob Glesnes? And yeah, he was quick to say Jacob Glesnes. That was an outstanding goal that Jacob scored against DC United a few weeks ago. But yeah, two really, really good goals. Unfortunately, Messi scored for Inter Miami last night. And so I'm sure MLS is going to include his goal as one of the top four. And if that is the case, then sorry, Frankie, there's no way that you're going to win goal of the season this season or goal of the week because Messi fanboys come out in full force. And even when it's not a good goal, Messi still finds a way to win. So hopefully Messi's goal is not included. And maybe you have an opportunity, Frankie, to come away with goal of the week. But Martin Ojeda for Orlando City scored a fantastic goal. So some good goals scored this week in MLS. And hopefully Frankie gets nominated for one of the 4 best this week. John says here, Dave Leno called it. Frankie's goal was great. Yeah, Dave Leno does a fantastic job calling games and calling goals. And really, really fortunate to have Dave Leno just every single year calling games for the Union on the radio. And don't forget, you guys can check out the Union's call on the radio when the Union are at home. There's an option for the radio feed. MLS needs to add the away team option because when the Union are on the road, you should check out the broadcast. I know you can still listen to 97.5 The Fanatic, who's not a sponsor of the show, but I'm not sure how linked up it is if you do that and then try to watch on there. I'm not sure if it's really that lined up. Shaggy says, unbelievable that Frankie gets all this action because of Harriel's early season injury. Absolutely. Jillian says, Frankie likes scoring bangers against Columbus, apparently. Last year, he had one against Crew 2 in the Eastern Conference Final. Yeah, that is true. Totally forgot about that. Mike Barrera says, Westfield is such a Philly athlete. Love his attitude when he plays. And yeah, I mean, it's so crazy to me to think that he's 19 years old and he has all the attributes to be a captain. And there's no way that the Union given 19-year-old the captain's armband on the first team. Yes, he was the captain last year for Union 2, where I think he was the secondary captain with Kyle Tucker as the main captain. But Kyle stopped starting games and Frankie started all 30 games last year. And so he became the captain. Comment here from John says he's been solid all year in terms of Frankie. Michael says, I sit right behind Frankie's grandparents. They were beyond proud last night. Had to give Grandpa Westfield a high five. As you should have. Fantastic goal. John says, glad I was at the game down in Orlando to see his first game. Could be a club legend for us. And the one thing that I worry about, though, is if Frankie Westfield continues to play as well as he's playing, continues to get called up to the youth national teams, Frankie's not going to be around for much longer. I mean, you have a right back that can attack. You have a right back that can score goals like that. A right back that's so good at finding space. He's getting better at defending. I wouldn't say he's at Nathan Harriel's level of defending because there's still moments where Frankie gets beat 1v1. But offensively, you love what you're seeing from Frankie. And once he dials in those little defensive 1v1 things, yeah, you have yourself a full, complete left back, right back. And yeah, he can play left back. Can also play center back too. So you have a very versatile defender in Frankie Westfield. And to see him score a goal like that, unbelievable strike. And to Mark's credit, Mark had mentioned earlier about secondary assists, where he says Danley's secondary assist praise makes sense since he did well to set up that play, but overall, not a secondary assist guy. And the thing with Danley, right, is it's a throw in for the Union in their own half on the left side of the field. It's Kai Wagner to Bruno Damiani, Damiani into Wagner, Wagner back to Bruno. Damiani plays the long ball up front to Danley. Danley does so well to run down that ball, then beat defenders on the dribble, passes it to Tai Baribo, and it's fantastic. Fantastic hold-up play by Tai Baribo. It's good awareness to see Frankie Westfield at the top of the box, and then first-time strike to be able to keep that ball down, hit it top bins. you can't hit a better shot than that. And so fantastic goal by Frankie Westfield. Jose jokingly says Frankie just needs to claim he is from Bangladesh. He will get the votes, because as you guys see, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on Facebook. All the Bangladeshi fans fill the social media comments up on Facebook. It's saying my Bangladesh brother for Kevin Sullivan and Quinn Sullivan. They love them, and they definitely play a part in spewing the votes. And they helped Quinn Sullivan win goal of the week a few weeks ago. So yeah, thank you to the fans that help the Union out get these awards. And yeah, maybe you're right, Jose. Maybe Frankie does have to say he has some Bangladeshi roots, and he'll get the votes that he needs to win goal of the week. But yeah, I mean, overall, just a really good goal, a good showing from Frankie Westfield. And it's been an unbelievable 10 months for this kid that was supposed to go to Penn State to play soccer in college. And then you have him showing off for Union too, gets his homegrown deal, and continues to show that he belongs here with Union. He's made that right back spot his. It's a good competition between him and Nathan Harriel for that spot. And you do maybe feel a little bit bad for Olivier Bizo, because there's no way that Bizo earns that spot back. He's not good in defending like Frankie Westfield is. I don't think he's at the level of attacking like Frankie is. And does Olivier Bizo become a trade piece in the summertime? Maybe not. But I don't know. Maybe you want to hold on to Olivier Bizo with all the injuries that the Union have defensively. But John also says he might be too good to hang around for long. Very true in terms of Frankie Westfield. Mike Barrera says that's the sad part about being a Union fan. You get excited about these young players, but there's a small window that they're here. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the nature of the business. We've talked about this in the past, that MLS is a selling league. It's going to continue to be a selling league, and most leagues in the world are a selling league. So I have no issue with it. I have no problems with it, and just enjoy Frankie while he is here and the rest of the players. So it's just the nature of the business. But before we end the show, again, Jose Nunez and I should be back on Thursday to review the LA Galaxy game. If you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcast of The Free Kick. Check out the YouTube channel, live every single podcast on YouTube, youtube.com/Free Kick Pod, where you can obviously check out the podcast and check out the goals breakdown videos, which I won't have a goals breakdown video out tonight. We'll probably get that out late Monday. But there is an article out for this game, so you can check that out at thefreekick.com/freekickpod, where you can check out the podcast, the goals breakdown videos, and articles all in one place. Jarrett asked, another early podcast Thursday. That's a good question. I'll have to get with Jose on that. I am off on Thursday, and it's one of my last days for a while that I have off. So I think that's actually a good shout. Good call, Jarrett. I know that was like a surprise podcast for a lot of people on Thursday when Jose and I decided to go early, I think at 10 o'clock in the morning. So Jose, if you're still in the comments, we're going to talk about that, but he might not be here still. So yeah, maybe another early Thursday podcast. And that way don't have to do a late night podcast on Thursday night. And we'll see what Jose says. If not, then probably a late night Thursday podcast once again. Shaggy says, great work, Todd. Appreciate that. Michael says, I hope for a dub Wednesday. Absolutely. Shaggy says, you mean you don't do this as a full-time gig? Yeah, absolutely not. If I was doing this as a full-time gig, you guys would get a lot more podcasts. You guys would get a lot more articles. I would have so much more time. But no, this isn't my full-time gig. And as John says, Todd does it for the love of the game. And that's a lot of us in the press box, right? I don't know how many people realize this, and I guess we can get into it before we end the show. There's only 2 people in the press box that work for full-time outlets. You have Jonathan Tannenwald with the Philadelphia Inquirer. Then you have Matt DeGeorge, who's writing for Delco Times. And then everybody else is freelancing, whether they're working for other companies or they're working for themselves. And so, yeah, a lot of us have full-time jobs. We just do it for the love of the game and do it for the coverage for you guys. So if the money was there, if an opportunity came where I could quit my full-time job and go in full-time working in sports, I would absolutely do that. But unfortunately, the money aspect's not there, and I continue to try to give you guys as much content as possible, as does Jose Nunez, as does Mark Kelkenberg, as does Mike Brewer, Jillian and Kyle Omni, and so many other great people. But you guys are the best part of the show. Thank you guys so much for entertaining me for an hour on tonight's Free Kick Podcast episode. We'll see you guys on Thursday. Let's hope for a Philadelphia Union victory on Wednesday. Let's hope that we get an honest answer from Bradley Cornell about Andre Blake on Tuesday. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.